Welcome to Trials, Triumphs, and Truths with Dr. Monica. I am the author of Wounds of Wisdom, the book written to help you confront, close, and crucify your wounds and heal and deal with life's wounds by me transparently sharing my trials and my wounds. So, you're listening to the theme song, I'm Moving Up by Carrie Taylor, a friend of mine. And I want to take this time to congratulate Carrie. She has been cast as LaToya Jackson in the documentary for the art of Michael Jackson, The Last Paintbrush. So congratulations, Carrie. Thank you for this song, I'm Moving Up, all the way up. It looks like you're moving up. So congratulations again, and thank you for allowing Trials, Triumphs, and Truths to adopt this song for the theme song. I am seeking a social media intern, someone that can help me out with social media. If there's anyone who's reliable, anyone who's committed and has some knowledge and is willing to be trained in some areas, please direct them to or go to drmonicajackson.com/apply, and you can read the requirements there. Last week, I asked listeners to post a couple of questions or send some questions to me, and that I would answer those questions. So I'm going to do that today. I selected, I think it's 3 questions that I'm going to answer. And then I want to share a comment from one of the readers. So let's move forward. The first question was from a reader that said, how did you make it through? How did you make it through these wounds and these trials? Well, I'm going to say that during this time, the serenity prayer became my best friend. And that prayer says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, and the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I referenced that and mentioned that on page 150. So I learned to stop trying to control everything. And for women, we're always trying to fix things and put things, make everything okay. And sometimes many things are out of our control. And then I also want to read a devotional, one of my devotionals. I read a devotional from In Touch, and from September 11th, this aligns with that question. And the title of this particular piece is Renewed You. It says, have you been waiting for God to do something about a situation in your life? Perhaps you've prayed about it for years or even decades, yet nothing has changed. If that's the case, you may be at a point where you feel all hope is gone. It goes on to say, but even if he does not give the specific answer to the prayer that you desire, one thing is certain: God is just as faithful to you as he is to others. And particularly it said as he was to Sarah. He sees the future and knows each of us better than we know ourselves, and will answer prayer accordingly in order to give us what is best. So I had to learn to rest in that. He knew what was best. I didn't. I only knew things through my limited knowledge and understanding. And because I did not have that knowledge, and because I could not change things, I had to find a place of peace. I also had to come to terms with that you can't change people's beliefs, their choices, or their actions until and if they are ready. So we might as well stop wasting our energy and our emotions on things that we cannot change. And I referenced that on page 72 of the book. The second question that was posed to me was, what would you do if you had to choose between God and your child or children? I paused on that question because 6 or 7 years ago, I would answer the question totally different than I would answer it today. If you've read the chapter, and I spoke about it last week, the children's wound, you know my experience and what I've gone through. And I think that I've had an Abraham Isaac experience, so to speak. And, I had to learn to release my child in that battle because it was something that I couldn't control. I truly learned how to let go and let God because of that situation. So because of that, I experienced unspeakable, unimaginable peace and abundance of provision. There's no lack, no worries, and no unmet needs. This situation showed me who God really is. It forced me to know him a lot more than I did. So to answer the question, it really is a no-brainer at this time. I choose God any day, any place, any time, because he has given me a peace that surpasses all understanding. Making other choices will not give you that peace. So maybe that's something that you need to understand. The third question that was posed to me was, what did you learn or discover upon writing this book? There was three things that I learned from this book. The first thing was that I regretted ever stepping foot in a church. And that may sound not too pleasant, but that's my reality. I regretted stepping in unequipped. We go into churches thinking and trusting people and giving them the benefit of their doubt, when sometimes we need to be just as cautious. And as parents, if we go into churches or attend church ill-equipped and take our children into those environments ill-equipped, they are easier prey. They are easier targets because they lack the experience and the wisdom. And that's something that we have to understand. So the other thing is that not only that I regret going into church, stepping foot in the church, I feel that's the same place I have to go back into to help others overcome their wounds. Now, will my message be received? And probably not, because it does rock the boat of some of the things that we have been taught in our churches. But we have to deal with our wounds. And we need to have people who have walked in those wounds to understand those wounds. The other thing that I discovered or learned from this book is I became what I despised and hated the most. You'll read about this in the book, generational curses, things that you see other people going through and things that your family has gone through. And finding yourself years later in that same predicament unknowingly. So generational curses are real. And if you read chapter 7, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about and how I became what I despised and disliked the most. And you can get yourself into certain situations unknowingly. So the final thing is that I learned was that I must make sure that people do not feel like they're alone or their experiences or should be ignored, that they're the only ones who's gone through those things or any of the wounds that I've mentioned in those 7 chapters. The focus must be on the lesson and not the hurt. We can't do anything about the hurt, but we can be in charge of our healing. And that's the whole purpose of this book, to give hope to healing. There is a brighter side of the wounds. There really is. So those are the 3 questions that I wanted to focus on that readers proposed to me. But I want to read a comment that one of the readers posted on my website on drmonicajackson.com. And you're welcome to go on there to read any comments and click on the book link and then view or write a comment. So this particular reader stated, "Oh my, What you're saying hits home from what you felt working in the college or university. I am also dealing with that and recently resigned from my position because of some of the same things you went through, the title, the no authority. And oh my, church for. What you said and how you felt is similar to how I felt about that pastor. I second what you've stated. One day, the pastor announced that he went to a famous palm reader, and then I knew this church was not for me. This was not the only issue, and the more I talk to people, I see that I wasn't the only one. Thank you for sharing your experiences and being vulnerable with your wounds. It's refreshing to know that we are not in this alone. And I thank that reader for this comment because it's the epitome of this book and the purpose of this book to let you know you're not alone. You're not losing your mind. You're not crazy. Trust your gut and your instinct. Trust it. You may find yourself alone and all you have is you and God. But that's all you need. It's not easy, but sometimes that's the best place and the best learning lessons. So my response to this reader, you mentioned a powerful key word, which is talk. Most of us in the church and in our families are told to keep silent. Do not tell our business. Let go and let God. Pray about it. And are discouraged from speaking up about or against a pastor, which may be a family member too. However, not every pastor standing behind a pulpit was called by God and or abused his or her authority. We must understand this, proceed with caution, and govern ourselves accordingly. We are also told when we speak up, we are gossiping, being divisive, ungodly, or judgmental. Some people are so enamored by the man or woman of God in the pulpit that they cannot see through them, but claim to have great discernment in fooling themselves as much as they are being fooled. They cop out and say that he or she is flawed, imperfect human being. I agree. What I do not agree with is turning a blind eye, sitting silent, or justifying wrong. That's condoning and equally damaging. Talking is like the forbidden fruit of knowledge of good and evil. When you speak up to others, your eyes are open, and they should be. I encourage anyone who feels in their gut and spirit that something is not right to trust that. Speak up, protect yourself, and flee without any shame or guilt. It's better to be safe than sorry. I go on to say that my heart breaks because I have exited many churches silently, leaving others in the snares and clutches of wolves in sheep's clothing, only for them to be wounded. However, not everyone is ready for or will receive the truth and must experience great pain for themselves before they believe, while some will never believe no matter what happens. So I pray this book encourages readers to pay attention to their church environments and do what's best for them and their family to avoid devastating wounds that you, I, and others have experienced from pastors and people in the pew that we trusted. So I thank that reader again because that was so powerful for me. That was so encouraging for me. It really helped me to continue the podcast, to continue speaking up, speaking out, and encouraging others. And that's what I hope that this podcast and the book does. This book needs to reach a lot more people. So spread the word, post the cover of the book, on the website and tell readers about the book, why you purchased this book, why you read this book, the impact it had on you. And again, I'm not trying to sell books, so to speak, but I am trying to sell books because I believe that I have been allowed to experience these things because it's necessary. And this is the right time to release this information. So tag someone, purchase this book. This concludes Trials, Triumphs, and Truths with Dr. Monica. We're going to conclude, as I always do, with this theme song, Carrie Taylor. Follow Carrie. She's doing some great things. CarrieRTaylor.com. And, just tell someone about this project. If you found this podcast enlightening, encouraging, comment, share, and like. Become a follower on this page. Post a question, what would you like for me to talk about in the next live from the book? Or would you like to come on and join me as one of my guests and interact with me? Would love that. Again, you can get a copy of the book at drmonicajackson.com/books. And I like to end all of my podcasts the same way. Until next time, don't allow anyone or anything to disturb your peace. And don't you disturb anyone's peace for the rest of the day. Okay? Be stronger. Be better. Let everybody see. Move up. All the way up. Just like Carrie is singing this song. Have a good evening, and thank you for tuning in. This is a rebroadcast because the first live was just lots of choppiness and just a lot of static. So I decided to come back on and re-record this. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great evening and stay encouraged.